Okay, today we're going to talk about genetics. We're going to go through how to use probability in order to determine the phenotypes or the genotypes of the offspring, of the expected offspring. Okay, so on your first page of your worksheet, there's a few questions on there that goes through just basically the different ways that the different combination of genotypes that we see in monohybrid crosses. And so we'll see big B and little b crossed with a little b, big B, little b with a big B, little b. And so really what you need to do is make sure that you really understand what those genotypic and phenotypic ratios are. It'd be to your best interest to be able to memorize those expected genotypes and phenotypes to make your life a whole lot easier to use later. But remember that you can always come back to using the Punnett squares or using this probability method. So we're going to go through here. I'm going to do both probability and the Punnett squares so that we can kind of see how they both get to where they're the same. All right, so if I have two heterozygous parents, I'm going to use the phenotypes black and white, the alleles. Black is going to give us a dominant allele is big B, white will be a little b. I'm going to cross two heterozygous parents. So if I go through and I do the Punnett square, okay, what I am doing is I am putting one parent across the top. I will put the other parent down the side. I will fill in all of the squares. And then from this point, I can get a genotypic ratio of 1 big B to 2 big B, little b's to 1 little b. From that, I can get the phenotypic ratio of 3 black to 1 white. Okay, so 3 dominant to 1 of the white characteristics. Let's move this so you can actually see. There we go. All right, so how do we do this dealing with probability? Well, some of the rules that we need to know is that if we're talking about the word and we'll go over this more, and implies that we are going to multiply our numbers together. Okay? If the word is or, this implies then that we are going to add our numbers together. All right, so let's see how this works in the scheme of trying to determine the genotypes or the phenotypes. All right, so we'll start with genotypes here. If I want to know, for example, what is the chance that my offspring is going to end up as a big B from a cross between two heterozygous individuals? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at, I need to have a big B. This big B, if I look at parent number 1, the chance that I am going to get a big B from this parent is that I have 2 possible alleles, and this parent only has one way of handing down that big B. So in order to get this big B from parent number 1 is 1 out of 2 alleles. 1 allele, 2 alleles. Okay? Then I need to look at this big B, and I'm going to look at the other parent. Okay? So what is the chance that this other parent is going to give me a big B? Well, again, I have 1 allele and 2 alleles. And so the chance that they're going to give me a big B is going to be 1 out of 2 as well. All right, so now I need to know what to do with these two numbers, and here's where this and or come into play. So what I want to know is what is the chance that I am going to get a big B and a big B together. So I am saying and, so that means that I'm going to multiply these two numbers together, and that is going to give me 1 out of 4. Okay, now I can come over here, and if I look at this number, 1 out of 4 chances, if I look over here at my genotypic ratio, I see that it's the same. I have 1 out of 4 chances that it's going to be a big B and a big B. Okay, now I can do the same thing here. We're going to do the heterozygous combination because this is a little bit trickier. So what we see here is the big B and the little b. Okay. What is the chance that I'm going to receive big B, little b from 2 heterozygous individuals? All right, now the thing that we have to remember about big B, little b is that there's 2 ways to get this. I can be big B, little b, or I can be little b and big B. All right, so what does that mean? Well, I see the word or right here, so this implies that I'm going to add these numbers together, and I'm going to add these numbers together to get my total. Move this up. Okay, so let's start at the beginning again then. So if I take a look then, ooh, there we go. I have a big B here. Okay, what is the chance that this parent here is going to give me a big B? Again, we've already established that that is 1 out of 2. Okay, what is the chance that the other parent is going to give me a little b? And that is going to be 1 out of 2 as well. Okay, so if I put it into the words and and or, I want to know what is the chance that I'm going to get a big B and a little b. So I'm going to multiply those numbers together. Okay, over here, okay, remember I can switch the way that we get these alleles. So I have a little b here from this other parent. Okay, so that is going to be 1/2. Okay, the big B could come from the other parent, parent number 2, so that also could be 1/2. Okay, put it into terms. What is the chance that I'm going to get a little b from parent 1 and a big B from parent 2? This becomes my formula. So 1/2 times 1/2 is going to give me 1/4, plus 1/2 times 1/2 is going to give me 1/4, and if I add them together, I get 2/8. I think. Nope, I get 2/4. It's my math genius coming out. And I can reduce that to 1/2. Okay, and if I come back up here and take a look, I see that the chance of getting a big B and a little b is 2 out of 4, or 1/2. Okay. All right, so let's take this to another level. All right, here is another sample question. Let me reduce this size here. Okay. All right, so what I have here is a plant that is showing 3 different traits. Okay, and each trait has 2 different alleles. Flower position for axial or terminal. Okay, stem length is tall or dwarf, and seed shape is round or wrinkled. All right, so the question here is reading then that a plant is heterozygous for all 3 characteristics. All right, so let's go through and label this. There we go. Let's label this. So I have one plant. He's going to be heterozygous. Oops, the parent. Parent is heterozygous. So that's big A and a little a for all 3 traits and a little r. Okay, and it is allowed to self-fertilize. That means that this is going to self-pollinate. So I am going to use the same genotype for both parents because both parents come from the same individual. Okay, so now let's go down here and try to solve this. All right, so what is the chance then that my offspring from this parent is going to be homozygous for the 3 dominant traits? Okay, so this is the expected genotype and I'm going to put dominant here because I think I have recessive later. All right, so this is the expected genotype that I have. Oh, 3 dominant traits. There we go. Expected genotype for my offspring that I am looking at. So let's go ahead and take a look. Here are my parents right here. Okay, so I'm going to do the same kind of thing. What is the chance I get a big A from this individual? It's going to be 1/2. And the chance that I get a big A from the other parent is also going to be 1/2. Because I want a big A and a big A, I'm going to multiply those 2 together. Okay. What is the chance I'm going to get a big T from this parent and a big T from this parent? Again, it's going to be 1/2 times 1/2. A big R and a big R, again, is going to be 1/2 and 1/2. And remember, it's and. Now, because I have 3 traits and I want to know that all 3 traits are going to show up in the offspring, I am going to take a big A, and a big T, and a big R. Okay, so if I come through and I do the math, I should end up with 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4, and that is going to give me 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 4 is a number I have to use a calculator for. So let me pull that up real quick. Okay, so 4, clear, 4 times 4 times 4. That was not right. 4 times 4 times 4, I think is 64. 1 over 64. All right, so the chance of having someone show up having offspring with homozygous dominant for all 3 traits is going to be 1 out of 64. All right, so we can go through and we can work the heterozygous for all 3 as well. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I will show you the answers here in just a minute, and we'll see if you can come up with the same answer. Okay, here we go. So if I am trying to figure out what the expected ratio is for heterozygous for all 3 from, again, 2 parents that are heterozygous for all 3 traits, here is my answer, is I would expect that 1 out of 8 individuals would be heterozygous for all 3 of those traits, all the offspring. Okay, here's the last question here, is what is the chance that of those 2 parents that are heterozygous for all 3 that I would end up then with offspring that are homozygous for axial and tall and heterozygous for shape. So again, I'm going to write down what my expected phenotype or genotypes are. So I would be big A, big T, big R, little r. And remember, your heterozygous combination can be big letter, little letter, or it can be little letter, big letter. And so if I go through and I work the math, I see then that my answer should be 1 out of 32. All right, well, I hope this has helped and that you are now ready to tackle some of those more complex genetics, and that you can hopefully be done with using those Punnett squares, which seem to be a little bit more time consuming. Again, as you start to realize that you how the monohybrid crosses come out in percentages, 1/2, 1/4, really this and or stuff kind of starts to get even simplified or faster. And I hope this helps.